Hey, welcome to my channel. This is Nikki. I'm an ADHD neurodivergent counselor and life coach. And these are my stories of burnout and trying to run a business while being burnt out. Consistency is something that is really hard when you have a chronic illness, because there can be days where you just power through and you're very tempted to try maintain that energy as long as you can. And then there are other days where you literally in bed and you've got sort of microwave packs on your neck and you've got your ice on your other injuries and you're taking your anti-inflammatories and your muscle relaxants and the works. I've yet to meet an ADHD person who doesn't have some kind of chronic pain or sort of a connective tissue disorder or something funny with their ears. And so we are a complex bunch, and sometimes we struggle to be consistent, not because of lack of motivation, but often it's because of burnout or sensory overwhelm or something like that. So to my fellow chronic illness warriors out there, those of you who are spoonies and you know what I'm talking about, if you know what it means to count spoons every day, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So me, thinking of all the different ideas of content and what will add most value to you, I thought about why not post about something that's very real to me, and this is being stopped from being able to work because of my chronic illness, because I'm in burnout. So I'm a person who has tons of ideas. I'm very creative. I love movement. I love to express myself. But I have a connective tissue disorder. It's genetic, it's hereditary. I think something like 50% of autistic people have it. It does mean that I'm often in pain. I'm often really, really tired. I think I cancel probably about 60 to 70% of my social engagements. That's not how it always is, but it is how it is at the moment. That's not how it always is, but it is how it is at the moment because I am in recovery from full-on burnout. It's been about 7 months now, and I'm slowly, finally starting to see little subtle changes in my energy level, in my motivation to go out and socialize, and in my productivity. So recently I was able to work full days for the first time in about 7 months. But it means that there are days where I'm completely bedridden and I have to just chill and I stay at home and I don't leave the house. Those of you who know spoon theory will know what I'm talking about. So let's just say in burnout, I only have about 5 spoons. Every time I do an activity or plan something, so it doesn't even have to be a physical activity of me actually getting something done. It can even be planning or making a decision or thinking through an idea. That can be 1 spoon. Planning what to cook and how to feed myself for a day can be 1 spoon, sometimes 2. Working can be up to 5 spoons a day. Everyone's spoon load is different, and some days you wake up with more spoons than others, but often you're going to have a period where you have X amount of spoons for a certain amount of time. Every time I go above my spoons for the day, I pay for it the next day. And so yesterday I found myself having to lie in bed, put my noise cancelling headphones on, play my deep bass sounds because that's the kind of thing that soothes me. I'm extremely sensitive to sound, so high-pitched, high-piercing, siren-y type sounds. Yet I will play my rave music full blast on my noise cancelling headphones while I'm lying in bed, and that is relaxing for me. And this is the paradox of autistic people and their sensory profiles. We can have things that seem like the smallest, tiniest things to other people, and yet to us it's like physical pain. I was in a Food Lovers yesterday, which is a grocery store, and one of the alarms went off and I had to walk around the shop like this because it hurt me so badly. So that's my sensory sensitivities, but then I can come home and blast my hard house music and my rave music and whatever else has deep bass. There's some R&B tunes I love too because of that. There's something about the resonance of the deep bass that I can feel in my chest that just grounds me. connects me to myself and enables me to relax. And so on a day like that where I have no spoons, I'm going to lie in bed with my heat pack, my painkillers, my noise headphones, and just close my eyes. Sometimes I can watch TV in that space, sometimes I can't. Sometimes I can read in that space, sometimes I can't. And yesterday was me doing that. Now today I am going to visit a friend. I'm going out to grab a couple of drinks. I am able to record a video. This is what it's like having a dynamic disability. One day can look like I'm bedridden and in a severe amount of pain. And the next day I can be semi-okay. I can do a certain amount of socializing. I can cook. And so it is hard because often people don't believe you when you tell them you're chronically ill or disabled, because they'll see you out, dancing, having drinks, socializing, and then they almost don't want to believe you when you cancel plans with them in the middle of the week and just say, I actually can't, I have no energy. Right now, I'm very fortunate to have people who understand that, who don't get mad at me when I cancel, who believe me when I say, I hit my capacity, I cannot make this, can we postpone? Several of my friends also have chronic illnesses alongside their ADHD, and so often they will do the same thing, but we understand each other. And if there's one thing I could tell people who don't have any chronic illnesses or disabilities, don't fucking judge a book by its cover. Don't look at me in my best night when I've saved up all my spoons for a week so I can go out dancing for one night. You don't know what that cost me. Don't assume because I look high energy one day that I'm lying about being so ill the next day. This is the frustrating thing about having a dynamic disability. The invalidation, the chronic disbelief from people, the lack of support because they just don't see it. And that's the thing about invisible illnesses. They are invisible. Okay, people? I had a client this week, and without going into too much detail, they were qualified to be a psychologist. They had the qualifications, they had the means, they'd done the work, but they had a disability that was visible and that you could hear. And they were told that, so they didn't get into the psychology master's sort of program here, even though they did a master's overseas, and they weren't accepted into our health professions council as a psychologist, even though they have a master's from overseas. And one of the comments and feedback to them was that you won't appeal to enough people. Just let that sink in for a moment. So because this person has a physical disability that is visible, they can still talk fine, they can still counsel fine, they're highly intelligent and they're quite engaging. But because they have what sounds like a sort of, I don't want to go into detail, but there's a disability, they were told that you're not going to appeal to enough people, and therefore we can't in good conscience give you one of the limited spaces to be a psychologist in our country. I was so livid when I heard this, because that is one of the most ableist things I've ever heard. This person's master's in psychology was accepted by the South African Board of Accreditation. And I understand these things because I worked as a lecturer in a university for 9 years. So I know what goes into accreditation of postgraduate degrees. So the South African board said she can qualify as a psychologist in this country, but they didn't want to give it to her because she would not appeal to enough people. Why the hell can't there be a niche for people who are disabled themselves and want to connect to a disabled psychologist? In what world would that be so off-putting to someone that you want to block their expertise? I didn't become a psychologist because of reasons like this. I'm neurodivergent. I wanted to offer something different. I want to give neurodivergent counseling and support to my clients. I don't want to treat them like a pathology or a disorder. I don't want my therapy to look like, I want to change you and tell you how to look like a good little neurotypical who has no disabilities or no chronic illnesses. This is the peak height of what ableism is. Denying a disabled person access despite them having the qualifications because they're disabled and you can physically see it. I think this person would be amazing. They could go and advertise themselves as, I'm a disabled psychologist. I love working with disabled and neurodivergent people. That is this client's passion. That's what they want to do. Why the hell shouldn't they be able to do that? It makes me wonder who is sitting on the board. How ableist are the people who are sitting on the selection committee or the Health Professions Council of South Africa committee that they don't want to give someone the right to practice as a psychologist because they are disabled. It makes me so mad, guys. My disability isn't as visible, right? So therefore I have some sort of privilege in this ableist society. This is not okay. I know that people would want to see her as a psychologist because she would understand them. Neurodivergent, she actually picked me to come to me as a client because I'm neurodivergent and because I talked about ableism and internalized ableism. What I just explained to you is an example of ableism, okay? So it's like a privilege that people with no disabilities, sort of no health issues, they're automatically privileged and they are going to get better places in society. They are going to get seen. They are going to get more seats at the table. That is a result of ableism. Right? Then there's something more complex called internalized ableism. And that is when people like me who have a disability or chronic illness or a different neurotype, and therefore society labels us as different and disabled and not good enough and not as worthy. Internalized ableism is when I start accepting that as a part of my identity, that I begin to think that I am less than others because I have a disability. It's insidious, right? Because it's like this thing that worms inside of you and latches onto your sense of self. And it's very hard to go through the process of sort of pulling out, where do I have internalized ableism? It would be the same with racism. Where are my unconscious racist bias? I grew up in South Africa. I'm a white South African. Yes, I'm a woman and a neurodivergent, so I do have minority groups that I'm part of, but in terms of being white, I am privileged in South Africa. Even though I grew up in the 90s, like as in a conscious child in the 90s, it was just like a toddler in the 80s, I was still exposed to apartheid mentality. It sort of carried on. I could see it in my grandparents. I could see it in my parents. You know, they grew up in that era. So I had to deal with my unconscious racist biases, and I'm still dealing on it. Just the other day, I made a joke in a particular accent of one of our people groups in South Africa, and there was someone there who said, wow, okay, that's like a little offensive. And I was so grateful she told me. I was able to apologize and tell her, I don't want to hurt anyone with my language. And so that was an example of unconscious racist bias. Me not realizing that that joke that I've done over the years is actually not okay. So internalized ableism is when you start to believe that you're not okay, because you are not sort of fully abled, because you have something in your body, physically or mentally, that is holding you back. It puts limits on you, right? But internalized ableism is taking on what the world says, that I am less than, that I am not okay, that I shouldn't really go after my dreams because it's already so hard to go after your dreams in society, and what chance do I have as a disabled or chronically ill person? Internalized ableism is an awful part of society. And this is kind of the reason why I'm making these videos, because I want to help you deal with your internalized ableism, because you will have it. If you're neurodivergent or disabled or chronically ill, you will have some of it. And it hurts your sense of self and self-identity. And it presents itself in the most unexpected of ways. So this is me shouting out to those who have a physical or visible disability that you don't have to sit with the ableist view of society. And it is something you can work on. It does take time. You generally need a professional to help you, like counseling or coaching through it. But let's be part of the change that we want to see in this world and deal with our own internalized ableism so that we don't have to present ableism to others in our society. If you've had troubles with internalized ableism or even ableism, if you've experienced ableism and are struggling with internalized ableism, please reach out to me or let us know your experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.